Good morning, or whatever time it may be for you. You told me to stop reviewing indies, so here's something else. Thunders. I never do those, right? Okay, so here we have the Thunder Light 149s. So let's overview them real quick. So these are an 8.5 inch wide truck. They have a hollow kingpin. They have the regular steel axle, and they have the forged base plate. So for a 149, these trucks are kind of low, which has some big pluses and minuses. They've got the traditional Thunder wheelbase, which is wider than a lot of trucks, and they've got these white bushings that have broken in pretty well for me. I've ridden these trucks on and off for almost a year now. So let's start off with one of the main features of this truck, and that's the forged base plate, making these 149s a bit lower. And Thunders tend to be on the lower side anyways for an 8.5 inch truck. So the biggest negative to this, of course, is going to be that I get wheel bite quite easily. A really good feature about these being pretty low, actually, is that they work pretty well on a steep deck. So right here, this is a anti-hero, and it's a 1 on the concave scale. So this is their steepest and deepest concave. So what that means is that it takes a lot more force to kick down, but because these trucks are on the lower side, your tail's going to hit the ground a little sooner. And they're also pretty light. So what that means is that even though you've got a combination, so a wide wheelbase and a steep tail that's gonna make it kind of hard to kick down, it hits soon, and therefore you still get a nice crisp, snappy pop, and the lightness makes your tricks work out pretty well too. I've also chosen a fairly big wheel for these trucks. So I'm on a 54mm Classic, and I think these trucks would do a lot better with something in the 50 to 52 range. But there's an interesting thing that happens with these bigger wheels on this wider, lower truck. And what happens is it pinches really easily because there's not much room here. So even though you're gonna get wheel bite on flat ground tricks and not landing things right, the other thing that happens is when you jump onto a ledge, your truck makes contact really quickly and it gets into pinch really fast. So there's an improved response there. So crooked grind tricks are really nice. Peachy. And being 8.5, there's a little more room, little more truck to jump onto. So that broader surface tends to make certain tricks a little easier. If there was ever a setup I should be trying to learn frontside crooked grinds, it would be on this one. Yes! I hate you, frontside crooked grinds! But I've honestly given up hope of that trick. Next, let's get into another one of Thunder's features, and that is that the base plate is kind of short. So especially once I'm now up to 54mm, I get a fair bit of friction doing my slides, so it sticks a fair bit. You can hear it on my tail slides. Another thing that these trucks are really nice for is pinch on rails. So like 50/50s, feeble grinds, Smith grinds, all that stuff works really nicely because again, you've got that broad truck, lots of landing surface, and then it pinches really quickly. So very smooth operation there. So how about Kingpin Clearance for Smith grinds? Well, it's not that bad actually. It's not that great either, but it's not as bad as a 147. The reduction in height comes from the base plate, not the hanger. The hanger is your standard 149 hanger. Okay, so in spite of the fact that these pinch really well, that they're really fun and flippy, there is one thing that I really don't like these trucks for, especially in combination with a steep deck. My manuals suck right now. When I was riding the flat deck with indies, my manuals were easily 75% more consistent than they are right now. So the nose on this deck, it doesn't have quite as steep a feel as the tail, so I can pull off most of my nose manual and switch manual tricks a little bit better. I'm maybe at about 50% of my indie setup. But on the tail, I'm down to like 25%. I'm missing them all the time, switch nose manuals and manual tricks. So that's a little bit frustrating, but there is a workaround to that. The workaround is choose a flatter deck if you want to be able to manual well on Thunders. The reason is because it has such a steep and heavy feel, what happens is there's a really small manual point. So with my indies and a flat deck, I have this huge broad range that I can adjust and keep my balance. But on this, there's like one spot. But anyways, at least there is the workaround with the flat deck. Well, that was Saturday. I had a couple of sessions. They were kind of lame, and looking back, so was my attitude. I was pretty focused on the things I don't like about these trucks, and therefore, everything I don't like seemed to keep happening. So today I'm going to put some energy in trying to focus on what I do like about these trucks and what are the good aspects. And that is, they are stable, they are super techy, they make a bigger board, like a 149 truck and an 8.28 feel a lot smaller, they work great for steep tails, super pinchy, and they lock in fantastically on coping, like transition. So time to warm up and keep that PMA. Time to get pinchy on the bat floor. All 1.5 feet of it. I'm satisfied with those. Those have never been a strong trick for me, so I'm pretty glad that at the dawn of my geriatric skate years, that those have even come back. I am feeling mostly satisfied with this session here, but it's not a Tawasin sesh without a fatty to flatty, so we got to do that for a couple minutes. Whoa. Whoa. It's got such a steep feel that I really can't prepare for it. So it's gonna be like a 1 in 5 or something maybe. Well, I didn't do the math, but that was probably 1 in 5. Ow, wheel bite. This deck, so just on a side note, this deck, this Anti-Hero 8.28, it's only 31.65 long, is awesome. It actually makes a wider deck, so wider for me guys, come on. I started in 7.5 days, so 8.28, nice and short, 14 1/8 wheelbase, so 360 flippy. Well, I think the order of tricks in this little video is going to be kind of anticlimactic, but I want to finish it off with one of the things that feels really nice on this setup, and that's just basic grinds on transition. These 54mm wheels and then these nice wide trucks that are low, just really stable. A lot of good board feel on the coping. Truck feel? What do you call it? I don't know. Pinch. Winter coping. Can't wax the coping, but I can wax my truck. That was satisfying. It's true to my memory. These really feel good in transition. Again, I got them like a 1/4 turn tighter than I like to ride them. And I'm not like a crazy bowl carver dude. So, you know, just doing nice long grinds is satisfying for me. Long for me, come on. Another thing, because this is a 14 1/8 wheelbase, well, that might be kind of small for transition, but the last board I skated on transition had a 14-inch wheelbase with indies, which shrinks the wheelbase in further. It was super squirrely. These, having the slightly widened wheelbase, both at 14 1/8 and the Thunders, feel really good. It feels really sturdy, nice and compact, so I can kind of coping dance easily, but also still really nice. Anyways, guys, that's it. That's the end of the Thunder 149 Light review. So, that's all I have to say. You know, you could stop watching if you want, Or not. Damn it, these trucks feel good.